I'm Kitty, and this podcast is mine, Missing, Murdered, Unidentified in New England. I cover cases from the New England states of Connecticut, Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and Vermont. Each episode takes place over the years of January 1st, 2010 to December 31st, 2020. And based on sources, some episodes will be long and others will be short, as these cases don't generally have much information available. All of the research, scripting, opinions, and mistakes herein are my own, and I will offer updates and corrections as needed. I do not trigger warn for wounds, as they are a necessary part of the narrative. I will trigger warn for such topics as animal death, domestic violence, suicide, etc. as needed. Now with that, please listen in as I tell you about March 2013. March 9th, 2013. Having taught Thaddeus in middle school, I had the unique opportunity of watching him grow up. He was a sincere and thoughtful kid with a twinkle in his eye and a smile that lit up the room. He was sensitive to others and their needs, even during the difficult middle school years. Thaddeus's sense of humor was grand, and he loved to joke around and have a good time. He was a special kid and will be missed by many. Thaddeus Mighty Clark was the son of Anita and Kevin, and brother to Jacayla and Curtis Clark Foster. Thaddeus was only 18 when someone shot him and Evan Clark at 7 Ronald Street Dorchester Mass. At 6:34 p.m., police were called, and by 6:36 they were dispatched. It was a clear night outside, and the lights and street lamps were brightly lit. The location of the Gray Toyota Corolla the men were shot in was on Columbia Road between Washington Street and Hancock Street. Although the shooting allegedly occurred on Morse Street, Evan tried to drive them to the hospital, according to a comment by an anonymous responder on May 8th to a news article online. Both Thaddeus and Evan were known to law enforcement, and unfortunately, Thaddeus was pronounced deceased at 6:47. The Toyota was secured and towed by Auto Service Tire to Boston Police Department headquarters for processing. Evan was transported to Boston Medical Center suffering from gunshot wounds to the chest and arm areas, and he survived his wounds. The next day, March 10th, 2013, Thaddeus's autopsy was performed, where it was found that several gunshot wounds to the torso and upper extremities with damages to the lungs, left common carotid artery, trachea, ribs, and humerus were responsible for Thaddeus's murder. Thaddeus was ID'd by his family members. Services for Thaddeus were held at Grace Church of All Nations on Washington Street in Dorchester, Mass., and Thaddeus is buried at Mount Hope Cemetery. In a sad turn of events, Anita, Thaddeus's mom, was discovered stabbed to death in her Staunton home 2 months later. Her ex-husband, Willie Foster Jr., killed her. There is no indication that Anita's murder was tied to Thaddeus's. If you have any information on the murder of Thaddeus Clark, please call 1-617-343-4470 or 1-800-494-TIPS. March 20th, 2013. I like to read! Otaku swagger! He was loving, he was caring, he was kind. Gandy Shad Kaydea was the brother to Julie and Cornelius. Gandy was smart, creative, and was in the process of improving his life. Gandy was the father to an 8-month-old daughter, was taking courses at the Institute for the Study and Practice of Nonviolence, and was 1 course away from earning his GED. Gandy also experienced housing instability, with a prior address of 59 Progress Ave, Providence, Rhode Island, with his ex-girlfriend and their young daughter, and then found himself homeless in the days leading up to his murder. Even with the housing instability, though, Gandy made it to class 4 days per week and also encouraged others to do the same, often calling classmates when they were late or missed class. On the evening of March 20th, 2013, at 417 Dyer Ave, Cranston, Rhode Island, Cranston PD and Fire Department responded to a small brush fire at the entrance to a cemetery. When the fire was extinguished, they discovered Gandy. Gandy had been murdered by ligature strangulation prior to be setting on fire. Gandy's murder was likely gang-related, according to authorities, as Gandy was part of the C Block gang out of Providence. Although Gandy's friends may have been in gangs and been involved with gang activity, Gandy's family thinks it is unlikely he was involved with such activities or people at the time of his murder. The cemetery was likely a secondary location, and Gandy was killed elsewhere. Julie, Gandy's sister, learned of his murder via social media, and Julie thinks that a $250,000 insurance policy brought out against Gandy had to do with his murder. Police investigated that lead, but it led them nowhere. Police have investigated several persons of interest, but no suspects have been named. Gandy went by the rapper name of Young Shad, and many of the videos that Young Shad and his friends, including Victor Gonzalez, aka Vic Mucka, were tied to gang life, rivalries, and to call people out. These videos getting uploaded led to feuds and violence. These videos also captured the attention of audiences, as Young Shad had several thousand YouTube followers. Someone, most likely Gandy's cousin, took over Gandy's Twitter after he was murdered and deleted or altered many of the deceased Gandy's tweets. Gandy is featured as the Two of Spades in the Rhode Island Cold Case card deck, which is the only card deck sold at commissary in jails and prisons in Rhode Island. Gandy's mom passed away in 2020, never knowing who murdered her son. If you or someone you know has more information, please call 1-401-942-2211. March 31st, 2013. Ryan Blagojevich has been consumed by alcoholism since his teenage years, although he was stable until a few years prior to his vanishing. Ryan is unable to maintain sobriety despite treatment and help, and is a transient man with ties to the Harwich, Massachusetts area. Ryan has a sister named Eve, and is an uncle to at least 7 children. Ryan is disabled by law due to a traumatic brain injury received in 2010, and was receiving Social Security disability benefits due to that traumatic injury. His parents were the payees, and then Ryan would call them to transfer money to where he was staying. Ryan began to drink more heavily, eventually finding himself as a transient living in the Portland, Maine shelters and encampments, and had been in Portland for about 6 months, known to travel between Mass and Maine. Ryan has a young daughter and a concerned, longtime ex-girlfriend who Ryan lived with until the middle of her pregnancy, when they parted ways. Ryan's family doesn't think that Ryan could or can start a new life on his own due to his traumatic brain injury. Ryan's family also doesn't think that Ryan would take his own life. Ryan's sister claims that the police department didn't take Ryan's disappearance seriously and never conducted searches for him. On July 27, 2012, there was a dine and dash incident in Ellsworth, Maine, where Ryan was charged with theft of service and violating bond conditions. Days later, Ryan was charged with violation of conditional release after becoming intoxicated and causing a disturbance in the residence he rented a room from. On August 12th, 2012, there was a bail violation, and Ryan was jailed for 30 days and required to pay $17.66 for the dine and dash incident. And for violating the conditions of his release, he got another 30 days. On Easter Sunday of 2013, the shelter Ryan was staying at called the police after Ryan was causing problems due to his intoxication. And on May 18th of 2013, Ryan was reported missing by his sister. Ryan was 37 when last seen in 2013. Ryan is 6 feet tall, 170 pounds, is a white male with blonde strawberry hair and blue eyes. Ryan's missing persons Facebook page is still up and posting. One comparison has been made to a body discovered in 2014 in Maine, but it was not Ryan, and that case has since been solved. If you have any information as to the disappearance of Ryan Blagojevich, please call 1-817-718-7904, 1-207-874-8575, or text PPDME to 847-411. If you have any questions, complaints, or concerns about the podcast you encountered here today, please message me at minepodcast@gmail.com. That's mine with 2 M's, 2 I's, 1 N, 1 E at gmail.com. And thank you so much for listening. Later, y'all.